Good morning. I'm Dr. Sunanda Samatar Corrado, co-hosting the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford, coming to you live at 10 o'clock every Thursday morning on WJZZ Cool TV, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Dr. Telford is a former Detroit Public School superintendent, a former world-class athlete and conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship crack coach, poet, newspaper columnist, longtime civil rights crusader, and the author of 6 Detroit-oriented books. The Poet Emperor of Earth, What Old Men Know, Creative Insubordination, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run, and another forthcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs, a Detroit poetic epic. He also has a show on WCHB AM 1340, Detroit's gospel station, Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. That's Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. His books are available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, or just by calling the good doctor at 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. John Telford has been called a legend and a lightning rod for controversy. He has received the Detroit City Council Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. He was named Wayne State University's Alumnus of the Year in 2001, and a Detroit track was named for him. His website is www.alifeontherun.com, and his email address is drjohnttelford@aol.com. That's drjohnttelford@aol.com. Now, without further ado, I present to you that crusading old native Detroiter, Dr. John Telford.
Thank you, Dr. Sunanda Samadar Corrado, that PhD from Columbia University, who is an anthropologist by training. Dr. Corrado has been teaching at Wayne County Community College District for over 10 years, and I never can understand how that can be so long. Because look at her, she looks like she's 17 years old.
Oh, gosh.
But she
It's
has
a
been
hair
doing
dye.
it. Yeah, well, and she's currently a researcher for the Detroit Equity Action Lab that's housed in the Wayne State University Law School. And she's founder and CEO of Education by Design. Okay, my name is Detroit. I'm a blue-collar town. Blue salt melts my mid-March snow. Speedy cars and sprinters spring from me. I father fierce fighters and funky music. In a Motown moment, I can spit the blues right back in a bureaucrat's eye. Have you never seen blue salt? No complex chemistry here, only the old color of a new sky. And we've got a new sky dawning over Detroit today because we're trying to get Denzel McCampbell elected city clerk, and he's sitting here in the studio right today. It's our honor to have Denzel McCampbell. Before I introduce him, however, I have some housekeeping announcements I have to make. But let me tell you something about Denzel. He's running to be our next Detroit City Clerk, and our vote is our voice. And as our city clerk, he's going to make sure that we have a real voice in every election. Every Detroiter deserves to know what's on the ballot and what it will mean for us. So we've got to join Denzel. He's supported by Congressman Rashida Tlaib, State Senator Stephanie Chang, State Senator Adam Hollier, State Representative Abraham Ayash, Councilwoman Raquel Castaneda Lopez, and also he's endorsed by Victoria Burton Harris, and he is endorsed by Dr. John Telford. And he belongs to the 13th Congressional District Democratic Party, to the 14th Congressional District Democratic Party. I'm on that executive board. AFSCME, Council 25, Unite Here, a Local 24, Detroit Action, Engaged PAC, Metro Detroit Democratic Socialists of America. Oh, a socialist. like you and me.
The S word.
The S word.
Michigan Liberation, Michigan People's Campaign, We the People Action Fund, Working Families Family, etc., etc.
Working Families is national. National. Listen to me.
Well,
It's national. I work for Working
it's
Families
national
Party
too.
of the
It's
University.
national and national.
It's
Yeah.
national.
But anyway, we want you to vote for Denzel McCampbell for city clerk by Tuesday, November the 2nd. Turn in or mail your absentee ballot today, and because Denzel is going to hold accessible and secure elections to ensure that every eligible voter in Detroit can vote, and that's not happening now. He's going to fight back against attacks on our right to vote, and he's going to increase civic engagement and education to involve young people and increase voter turnout, and he's going to increase transparency in our city government. And Denzel is a Detroit native, living near Rouge Park, and he served as an elected Detroit Charter Revision Commissioner. He has spent the last decade fighting to protect and expand voting and civil rights for all of us. And he's currently Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib's communications director. He also serves on the board of directors for the Sugar Law Center and the Mary Turner Center for Advocacy. So we're going to be interviewing him. We may have to do a commercial before we do, but I've also got some other things that I promised folks that I would say. Russ Ballant has told me that we've got some very powerful issues that affect every property taxpayer in the city. Councilman Scott Benson, who is currently in serious legal trouble, continues to take his usual posture that reflects his commitment to developers, not to his district voters. He even supports the escalated tax captures on our public schools, which is very dear to my heart. And also the library systems. And that's a form of tax looting, wherein the mayor takes from our education millage revenue and gives to, quote, developers, unquote.
How many libraries are we left with all these tax
Six.
captures?
We have got 6 left. 6.
Wow.
S-I-X.
Wow,
6.
we don't have parks or libraries in the summer for our kids.
You got it.
All right.
There is no record of who is getting how much of the $60 million that is disappearing.
We all know who.
Well, it's disappearing from the public record, nor does 99% of the public know that this is even happening. So Russ Ballant has shared some of that information with me, and I'm sharing it today with our watchers and listeners. Okay, I have been credibly, they've suggested this to me. I've had more than one person credibly suggest it, that the video portion of my interview of Detroit mayoral candidate Anthony Adams on this show, WJZZ, Cool TV, this past Thursday morning, that I sent to Larry Hightower of the influential EMG, that's the email group, was somehow sabotaged, perhaps due to the identity of my distinguished and progressive guest, Anthony Adams, since mine was ours was the only WJZZ program that aired last week on that day.
That had the glitch.
Perhaps deliberate glitch. It had a damaged, flickering image. So even though the audio portion of it, with candidate Adams' incisive and enlightening responses to my questions, was unbreached, I thought I'd better forward attorney Azar Amenra's equally comprehensive interview of Mr. Adams to Larry Hightower, and I've already done that. And also, Mr. Adams sent me some remarks that he would like me to make. I'm going to quote him. The important 2021 Detroit campaign for mayor of Detroit has really given me, then the me being Anthony Adams, a unique perspective on the status of race and media in this town. For example, I had a conversation with a reporter who decried the level of racism in this Detroit media's coverage of my campaign. This blackout by the media in Detroit of my candidacy has been a deliberate attempt to silence the truth of the criticism of my opponent's policies, which have crippled substantial portions of our community who suffer in silence, bemoaning the loss of generational wealth and otherwise allowing for the unwarranted displacement of our community from real political leadership. And I'm not going to read everything that Anthony would like me to read because I want to have enough time to thoroughly interview Denzel McCampbell, who's running for city clerk and whom I support. But there have been plenty of dog whistles questioning the legitimacy of black leadership in this town. And you know, he's given me a whole diatribe to share with you, and I may share more of it toward the end of the show if we've got time. But I want to move right in to my endorsements also, and I've got a new endorsement now because I've learned that Landis Spencer is running for police commissioner in District 6. So I do support Landis Spencer for police commissioner in District 6. And of course I support Denzel McCampbell for city clerk. And I'm supporting Mary Sheffield. I always support her. She's my council lady in District 4. I'm supporting Linda Bernard for police commissioner in District 2. I'm supporting Scotty Bowman for police commissioner in District 4. I'm supporting Letitia Johnson in District 4 for city council. We had her on the show a little while back. I think it was the 14th of October. And of course, who else am I supporting?
Letitia.
Letitia. She's running for city council in District 4. Hodo, absolutely Hodo.
Hodo's a write-in candidate for District 3.
Yeah,
W-F Hodo.
W.F. Hodo. On the ballot, he's right in W.F. Hodo in District 3, and he's running against Scott Benson. So right in W.F. Hodo in District 3.
He pleaded guilty, right?
For Scott Benson, he's in a
still
world
under
of trouble.
investigation.
Oh, so he's still under. Okay.
He's in a world of trouble. I mean,
I shouldn't have said that. Sorry, Mr. Benson.
Yeah, well, he probably will plead guilty. But anyway, and I told Coleman I'm endorsing Coleman Young for city council. But you know, the mayor won't debate against Anthony Adams. Now, you know, to be completely frank with all my listeners and watchers, the mayor is my friend, you know, but I am not happy that he won't endorse Anthony, and I am voting for Anthony. So Mike, I'm telling you right now on the air, I haven't voted for you this time. I'm voting for Anthony Adams, and one of the reasons I'm voting for him is you won't debate him, and Denzel McCampbell's opponent won't debate him either.
No.
That's the city clerk. I'm not going to mention her name, but you know, the incumbent. Yeah, and I have already condemned her on my other show, WCHB AM 1340. In fact, I did it this past Saturday morning at 9:30 because you know, there's just too much crooked stuff going on, and we've got to get her out of there, and we've got to get Denzel in there. And listen, Detroiters, and you're being lied to by these folks. You know, we've absolutely got to get Denzel McCampbell elected city clerk, or we're going to have this crookedness going on again and again and again, and it's never going to stop repeating itself.
And you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. We're interviewing today Mr. Denzel McCampbell, running for city clerk. So please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us and other programming. And thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world.
So Denzel, on that note,
Yes.
welcome to the John Telford Detroit Show on
thank you.
WJZZ Cool TV.
Thank you for having me. Thank you both for having me. And for the viewers, I'm wearing a We Are Home mask just for folks to show because, as we're engaged in this local election, we also have legislation on the federal level that should be
Yes,
having
right. We certainly do.
that should have comprehensive immigration reform as well as paid leave and as well as climate action legislation in it. And of course, we have some folks on the federal level like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema who are being roadblocks in that. So just want to wear this to make sure that folks we stay focused on what needs to happen on the federal level as well. Because folks turned out and voted to, push back against Donald Trump, but also we need the Biden administration and the Democrats on the federal level to do what we sent them there to do. So just want to.
Well, there's no question about that, Denzel.
Yeah.
President Biden has decried the outrageous treatment of Haitian refugees at our Mexican border. But he still keeps deporting them.
Mm-hmm.
He still keeps deporting them. So I've got a number. I'm glad you mentioned that. We've got to get everyone calling to the president and telling him, let the Haitians in.
Absolutely.
I mean that's what we're all about. He's got to let the Haitians in.
And let the Middle East have autonomy.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, and we can maybe talk more about that if we got time. We've got an hour, but an hour goes fast.
Yeah, it does.
So I couldn't believe the endorsements that were on your placard. There are just amazing people who've had amazing lives of service.
Oh yes.
And they all seem to think that you would be wonderful for city clerk. So I'm wondering, with all these accolades, achievements, years of service, when you can run for just about any office maybe, why particularly did you decide on the city clerk office?
And that's a great question. And I, as Dr. Telford mentioned, I've been involved in voting rights and election protection work for nearly a decade now. And, I started my work with going around the state for election protection. What that meant is that, if you showed up to a polling location and we're having issues voting, I would be one of the people, whether it's myself or folks that I help recruit, to go out to work with the poll workers to say, okay, this person should be voting. They're on the poll book. They don't need their ID to vote. You can sign the affidavit. Make sure that poll workers actually got folks to vote, and I did that work. I was a part of the early planning group around Promote the Vote in 2018, Proposal 3, that expanded access to the ballot box. And also was a part of a $30 million initiative last year to actually work across 8 states around voter education and the pushback against voter disinformation. And in the Congresswoman Tlaib's office, I also advised on voting rights legislation, including the one that we need to get through the Senate right now. And so I've always had a passion around voting rights. And when I look at the Detroit City Clerk's office, to see the 14% turnout in August, to see declining turnout over the past years, to see that polling locations aren't open on time, to see that absentee ballots aren't arriving on time. I would remind folks that last year the city clerk's office was sued by the ACLU because they had 70,000 absentee ballots just sitting there not being sent out.
What did they say?
That's a disgrace. That is totally disgraceful.
Oh yeah, and most recently 70% unbalanced precincts and not recountable. So
14% of voter turnout and 70% miscounted. Of the 14% turnout?
No, the 70% was from last year.
Okay,
in August of 2020.
I'm sorry.
2020.
Well, it should not be from any year.
It shouldn't be from any year. And don't apologize. It should be from any year. But when you see those issues, and then as we talk about the issues that we all care about, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's making sure that we have climate action or education, if we do not have a strong foundation around civic engagement, civic education, and voting, we're not going to be able to move those issues in the pace that we want them to. And that's why I decided to run for city clerk, because we can be doing much better. And we know when we increase that turnout to 30 and 40 and 50 and 60%, those issues will be at the forefront. We'll have a more engaged electorate across the city, and not just at the ballot box, but as we're talking about city council, holding city council accountable, as we're talking about holding whoever the mayor is, whoever is in the city council position, they have to be held accountable. they have to hear from folks, and that's why I really want to run it for Detroit City Clerk, because we can be doing so much more.
So you've been looking across 8 states. What problems are endemic to Detroit, and what threats on our vote is more national or more pervasive?
Absolutely. I think in Detroit we have to get even just what I call the basics right. Right, as I talk about polling locations, right?
Yeah.
Open it up on time. As the absentee ballots, making sure people know, have the factual information. You've all have probably you shared the flyer for the proposals. There's a lot of folks who are confused about the proposals because they have not gotten information from the city clerk's office on the proposals. So what I would like to do is to have early and often education. Even if I would like to put, when you're getting your absentee ballot, you also get a one-pager, an FAQ, for example, to say, here's what these positions are. Here's what the factual information is about proposals. Increase in the education. So that's what we're seeing in Detroit, is that the really not even getting to the bare minimum of the basics around election administration. But I'll tell you, across the country, we're going to continue to see these attacks on our voting rights.
Yeah.
Because really, it's just really, you have the Republican Party wanting to make sure that they are able to choose their voters instead of having everybody vote.
That's precisely what they're doing. That's the only way they're going to stay in office.
Exactly, and you're going to continue to see. We're going to continue to see disinformation campaigns. Folks in Detroit may remember in last year actually that folks were getting tossed that the election day was on a different day.
Yeah.
And we've seen these flyers that will be in the neighborhoods to say, if you have a felony, you can't vote, even though that you absolutely can vote if you have a felony.
Yes, and you should be able to vote if you've paid your dues to society.
Exactly.
And one of the things that I really like about your campaign and about you personally, about what you have said, is that you're supporting education. And that's very dear to my heart.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned the proposals. Well, one of the proposals that I voted for all of them, but I voted for reparations. But the reparations that I believe that we need is for the Republicans in Lansing to pay back the $3.5 billion that they stole and that they misspent of the Detroit public schools.
Oh, yes.
Because, when they took us over in 1999, we had a superb superintendent named Dr. Eddie Green. Our student test scores were at the state midpoint and rising. And we had $125 million surplus.
Yes.
And now here we are now, 2 decades later, with a $3.5 billion deficit that the Detroit taxpayers have to repay. So what needs to happen is the Republicans in Lansing who created this mess, and I'm not going to take too long because I'm getting on a soapbox now, being an educator. And incidentally, they've got to pay it back. We need to get a forensic audit. And I think some people all the way up to a couple of governors will go to jail if we do.
And you know what? This was your response that you gave on Friday at the Do We Care Education Summit about the proposals SR&E. And when the public was asking where should this funding come from, why should we pay taxes for our own reparations, so to speak, Dr. Telford was pointing out that $3.5 billion has been stolen in contractual money.
Billion with a B.
And that we actually need a actuarial forensic analyst to come up and give us back. This is a contrived debt, and the DPS debt continues. Everybody's looking the other way, but everybody knows the debt doesn't go away.
Well,
so where does that? I'm sorry.
Well, we're going to have to hold our breath for that. Yeah. We better not hold our breath for that. But this man here supports everything I support. He supports education. Matter of fact, it's a small world. I found out that he was a student in the Madison Community School District when I was superintendent there, and I was bringing all the kids from Detroit in, balancing the budget, and I got fired. I found out right on Hugh Perkins' Let It Rip show that I've been fired from that superintendency. But Denzel got a really good education in a really good district. That Madison district was a good district, and I want to bring Detroit back to the level of excellence that it enjoyed when I graduated from the Detroit Public Schools. I'm an old guy, but I came out in January of 1954 when we got an education that was almost the equivalent of a sophomore in college. That's what I want to see happen again.
And what
But-
else?
But at the same time, 90% African Americans were tracked vocationally. That was
Mm-hmm.
DPS at the time too. Isn't that
Yeah,
funny? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And what I'll say on the education, just to touch on that, is that hopefully Proposal R passes. I'm voting for Proposal R, and what we absolutely have to make sure as that task force is being formed that they do look at things like I would say is that they not only do they have to look at the history of slavery and a systemic racism in the city of Detroit, but they also have to look up until now as well, right?
That's right.
It's because we still
Jim
have
Crow
these-
lives, man.
It lives,
Jim
right?
Crow hasn't gone away.
It's not.
He might be Mr. James Crow, quote
Exactly,
jails,
yeah.
but he's still Jim Crow.
Absolutely.
And so anyway, but let's get back to your campaign. What is your vision for the office and position of city clerk?
Absolutely. Ultimately, I want folks to have a clear understanding and a clear expectation of the city clerk's office. And what I mean by that, I want folks to know who the city clerk is because I'm going to be a city clerk that will be in the community. I want folks to know that.
Did you hear that, folks? Be in the community,
Yeah,
out in
absolutely.
the streets.
And that's key. If we want people to turn out to vote, if we want people to turn out to city council meetings, if we want people to be engaged, we elected officials, the folks that we also have to be that. We also have to show up. And my background has been in showing up with community, working on issues on water affordability, on equitable development, on education justice. That's been my work. So I've been connected on also making sure that our public safety is actually about safety and not over criminalization and over policing. I've done that work in the community, and I want to make sure that we have a city clerk's office that is in the community, a city clerk's office that is accessible, that is providing information, and also the transparency. Because when we look at and I'll touch on this a little bit, but I just want to there is a key part of the city clerk's office being helping to increase transparency, and especially in a time when we see all these investigations. But my vision for the city clerk's office is to be a robust office that is working every day, day in, day out, to increase turnout, but also to make sure that we have more informed folks across the city. Because the bottom line is that the city clerk's office should have a mission to give folks the tools to activate their own agency for change.
So how about education about redistricting? I don't believe the city clerk's office, or traditionally even any of the city clerk's offices, are talking about civic education in the form of redistricting. How much has redistricting affected us already, and what kind of education do we need to kind of stymie that?
Redistricting, and I'll tell folks, the maps, their draft maps are being discussed right now. Please pay attention to these maps because, a lot of the Detroit voting power, especially, we're 85% black city, and when you're diluting the power of the Detroit voters, you're diluting the power of black voters. So please pay attention to what's going on there. The city clerk's office does not have a direct role in redistricting, but what the city clerk's office does have is a lot of data when we're talking about the voting patterns of communities. So when we're talking about the conversation around communities of interest or districts and how people vote, the city clerk's office has that data to say, well, these neighborhoods vote constantly together, right? Or they turn out to these polling locations together. So this is a community of interest, right? So we can be getting that data or demographics of voters and things like that. I would love to be a city clerk's office that is actually just publishing that data so communities, residents can take that and say, hey, we have the data supporting our argument for communities of interest.
Okay, and I want to talk a little bit more about transparency right after this commercial.
And you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us and other WJZZ platforms. And thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And we're here interviewing Denzel McCampbell, running for city clerk's office, November 2nd.
And I am totally behind this guy. I want to see him get elected. I know he's swimming upstream. and if there were a racing form right
Yeah.
now, they used to have.
Not upstream in terms of endorsements.
Oh
right?
no! just in terms of the money that's
Yeah.
behind
Indeed.
his.
Indeed.
When I was running, there used to be racing forms at the NCAA and at the Penn Relays. I can remember the NCAA in 1957. I was a 40-1 underdog against Charlie Jenkins from Villanova because he'd won the Olympic title the year before in the 400 meters, and I beat him. So the first time I ever beat Charlie Jenkins. I raced him 3 more times and beat him 2 of those 3 times. But anyway, I want you to talk a little bit more about transparency.
Absolutely.
How do you plan to increase transparency and accessibility? Specifically, what are you going to do?
Absolutely. I look at there's 2 different roles in the city clerk's office that I really want to increase transparency and accessibility. One with the election administration. I want Detroiters to know every aspect of our election operation. When we're talking about from the point that that folks are gathering signatures. I know you've heard from candidates that have been kicked off the ballot or gas signatures and then find out way later on they didn't have enough. I want to make sure that we're providing those updates. Well, for me, for one reason, if you're collecting signatures and you turn in those signatures early, why do you have to wait to the end to know if you have enough signatures?
Indeed.
Enough valid signatures. If you turn in early, there should be incentive that we're going to let you know, oh, you don't have enough. You might want to go get some more. So from the point of collecting signatures all the way to the board of canvassers for Wayne County certifying the vote, I want to make sure that everyone knows what that process is, because what that'll do is increase trust in the process, right? So folks can know, yes, in the city of Detroit, we are running accessible, secure, and accurate elections, right? Also, the accessibility, we have to look I think about in a number of ways, not only increasing the ways of people voting, making sure that people know that the various ways to vote, whether it's absentee in person, or at the polling locations, making sure that people know that they can update their registration all the time, because we now have same-day registration, but also increasing accessibility in our polling locations, right? Doing a complete audit on every polling location in the city of Detroit to make sure that it's ADA compliant, that we have that is set up in a way that people can efficiently move through and get in and out. I know it's so often that people see long lines and they're like, "Whoa, that's a lot of people turning out." A lot of people can turn out, and we don't have to have long lines.
Right.
That's one thing. Like that, both they're not mutually exclusive.
The long line is an administrative illusion.
Exactly, and that's another thing. And but also making sure that we have voting equipment for folks who may need accessibility around hearing, around visual, and things like that. So we have to look across the board for accessibility in that way. The other thing that I talk about is and our documents as well. I heard from some folks that the current document that lists out all the satellite location, they can't be read by a screen reader. So folks who have visual impairments are not able to use a screen reader to see where the satellite locations are.
So you're a younger generation. I probably could have babysat you while I was putting myself through. You know what I mean? So in that sense, where do you think digital justice lies in the city clerk? And do we have that kind of technological innovation and foresight right now, or is that something your generation and the design generation can bring to us?
I think we have to. I think it's right in front of us, and this administration spent millions of dollars on IT upgrades. That hasn't reached the city clerk's office.
That's
so
right.
As a city clerk, I'll make sure that we're putting those things in place, and we have so many folks across the city that are doing that work that we can partner with to make sure that happens. And also on the transparency front, and as we're talking about the digital front as well, folks may not realize this, but the city clerk is the clerk of the council, the city council. The city. Exactly. They're the clerk of the council.
So they can hold accountability measures too.
Yes, and what we have right now is that you may have the long form agenda, but we don't have minutes online. We don't have city council votes online. So as we're talking about the towing contracts, the folks that they're in trouble with, we can't go back to see how our council members voted on those towing contracts.
Well, Madam Kendall Walker, when she was running, she reflected that the actual website by the city clerk is not it's not run by the city
No.
clerk's office. That the city clerk's office doesn't have
And why is
its own
that?
website.
And we're talking about an independent office that
Right.
is on the ballot, right? And if there is an issue that the administration is holding this website,
Mm-hmm.
then let folks know. But if it's a case that you're just not running it, then that's an issue, right? And
Yes, right.
and we have to make sure that we're increasing, because if we're able to provide the votes, the minutes, there's a group called the Detroit Documenters. These are folks who volunteer to sit through a city council meeting to take the minutes,
That's
to make sure
excruciating
to
at
take the
times.
minutes, to take the
yeah.
votes, and they actually published an op-ed in the Free Press saying that they were not getting the information that they needed from the city clerk's office.
Amazing.
So you have a group that's going far and beyond covering what the city clerk's office should be doing, and they're not even getting the information that they need from the city clerk's office, and that has to change, and I'm committed to changing that.
Okay, and I'm very happy about about your philosophy of education and the youth, but I want to separate two things in a question here.
Mhm.
I want to know how you plan to increase civic and youth engagement, but I want you to address
Great
those
question.
as two separate issues.
Absolutely.
Let's start with civic engagement.
So overall, what I would like to do is create what I call a civic education core. And this will partner with block clubs, neighborhood associations,
Oh, yeah.
civic engagement groups, the folks that are already doing that work but don't have a partner in the city clerk's office. Right? You have so many folks that say, oh, we invited them there.
They
We
don't come.
asked for this information.
Yeah.
We don't have it, right? So what I'd like to do is partner with them actually to go door to door in neighborhoods to ask the simple question.
Do you hear this, folks? He's going to go door to door,
Door to
out
door.
on the streets after he gets elected city clerk. Have you ever seen a city clerk in the city do that before? No, you have not. But Denzel McCampbell is going to do it. How can folks get in touch with your campaign?
Oh, absolutely. So our website is www.denzel4detroit.com. So it's spelled out DenzelForDetroit. That always catches me up for some reason. .com. So Denzel4Detroit.com. My phone number.
Say it again.
So www.denzel4detroit.com. FOR is spelled out. And my phone number is 313-230-4251. And you can also
Phone
email
again.
313-230-4251. And you can email me at denzel@denzel4detroit.com.
Okay, you were talking about civic engagement.
Yep, absolutely. So taking that, going door to door, and it really listening to folks, but asking this key question: what issues are important to you?
Right.
And taking from that, if someone says, I have a young family, I really care about recreation options in the neighborhood, right? To say, absolutely, hear you on that. Did you know that City Council and the Mayor's Administration sets our budget for recreation, for Parks and Rec? Here's their number to get in touch with them, to let your voice be heard, right? Did you know the Parks and Recs Department has control over upkeeping our parks and new equipment? Here's their number to report how you feel about your parks. We're not telling people which way to feel. We're giving folks the information. Because what I believe is that when you're giving folks the information and tools, they're going to become more engaged. And they're going to say, oh, City Council controls the budget. I'm going to attend a meeting. Or I like the way things are going, or I don't like the way things are going. And we say, also, there's an election coming up. But not only on the city level, letting folks know about every level of government, especially if there's an election coming up. But also, what I like to also do is hold forums and what I call people's assemblies, and allow folks to come and talk about various issues, just so folks can learn about what's going on in the community and become more engaged there. I really believe that would increase more engagement, but also increase our turnout. As we're talking about, and also with this core, as we're going door to door, we'll be in every district, and that will also increase employment of folks to be going door to door of all ages as well. When we talk about youth engagement, we have to, I had a roundtable with educators during the primary, and they said, look, we want to be engaged by the Detroit City Clerk's office. We want the City Clerk's office in
You
our
had a
school.
round table of educators?
Mm-hmm.
Who attended?
It was a mix of folks from various schools across the city. I was
Okay.
it was just a wide range of folks across the
Okay, I
city.
didn't know about that. Yeah.
I just want, because we need to talk about this a little more afterwards. There was the Urban Agenda Civic Literacy Project, which was housed in the Political Science Department of Wayne State, headed by Otto Feinstein, which had over 90 middle schools and high schools in civic engagement facilitations, and they would come together in little conferences, and they would follow the election cycle. So anytime there was a mayoral election, then he would have this huge conference at Cobo Hall, and all these elected officials would come out and meet these kids en masse because they were taking messages home, but also they were coming up with their own agenda. Young people have very different view of life and needs than the older people have to work all day to maintain what we have. So I mean, there's just so much
We lost Dr.
indigenous.
Feinstein.
Yeah, but there's so much indigenous groundwork that Detroit is already. We've been doing spellbinding work, and I just love the history you have, because you also work with the Sugar Law Center. So all these forms that we've already been doing that they threw away, we can remantle. And bring it back just by giving people their voice back.
Exactly, and you're absolutely right. I don't want to recreate the wheel, because that work has already gone on. We have blueprints of that work. What we need is a partner in the city clerk's office to be willing to push that forward. And as we talk about, those type of gatherings, but also what I want to do is to create a education advisory committee inside the city clerk's office, right? And to have educators, to have parents, to have students at the table to say, here's what we want to hear. Here's what we need from the city clerk's office.
All
absolutely, right? And
I love it.
Because, again, I don't have all the answers. The staff in the city clerk's office.
I do. Just put me on there.
Exactly.
I got
We'll have you on there. But
just kidding.
Folks in the classroom, and students, educators, staff, they can be a part of it. They must be a part of it.
You know what? I'm going to bring you to talk to my kids at Frederick Douglass Academy. I'm the poet in residence now, and that's where I do my poetry. Matter of fact, tomorrow I got to go to Southeastern and do a poetry session over at Southeast. That was my old school. I track coached there 60-some years ago.
My dad graduated from Southeastern.
When?
In 72.
That was way after I was there. I was coaching there from 1960 to 1963. I had state champions, in track. But anyway, I want to talk more about the youth engagement. Talk more about that.
Oh, I was just going to, and the goal is to create curriculum from K through 12, relatable curriculum. And what I mean, using tools, the Gen Z is on TikTok now, but we all remember the Schoolhouse Rock video. Wouldn't it be cool to even recreate that with Detroit
we already have student government.
Right.
They could already send delegates. All we need is a place in the city.
Yeah.
Everything is in place.
Exactly. Local artists, local musicians, local poets, rappers to recreate that, come up with something that is relatable to Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even that's what we can have here, that folks, it can go, I'll use the word, it can go viral, but it's something that is relatable to students. And we're going to get that because we're going to have students at the table saying, no, that's not going to work, this work. Educators at the table say, well, we want to make sure we're teaching about this. That's not going to work, this will work. We can make sure to do that. And what we'll have, and also partnering with the Secretary of State's office to make sure that we have pre-registration in the state of Michigan. You're 16 or 17 years old, you can pre-register that. Once you turn 18, you'll be registered to vote. But when folks come out of high school, if you start this, we start this program at kindergarten, and you get this program all the way through the senior year of high school, you're going to know it all, and you're already going to be engaged in your community. And you maybe even coming out of high school said, I'm going to run for office in a couple of years.
That happens.
That's right.
That's right. Because you already know what's going on.
As you did.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
And as Proposal P was suggesting with the internship of our youth and their citywide offices.
Oh, it's a tragedy that Proposal P didn't pass. We needed to pass that so bad. I mean, that was money that was spent by the corporations to defeat it. That's a doggone shame.
But we're not done with Proposal P.
No, we're not. That should be a rallying cry.
And so in that sense, how are you going to identify these pools of apathy? Because the irony is they're the most vulnerable voters. They're the ones we're trying to get to. They're the ones that other sides aren't interested in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how are they valuable, and how do you plan on What's your approach?
So that's the door knocking piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's the meeting people where they are, going to places that and I've worked on campaigns, and like you said, campaigns will go to the most likely voter, and they're only going to talk to the most likely voter.
Mm-hmm.
But the city clerk's term is 4 years. We can go to every registered voter. We can go to every house in the city just to ask that question, and you're gonna have those conversations with folks, right? I was walking down the street about 3 weeks ago, and there was a group of young men, and once I was like, "Are y'all gonna go vote on November 2nd?" They said, "Oh no, I'm not voting. I have a felony
Oh.
because I can't vote." And I said, "No, you can't vote." And he's like, "Oh, really?"
Man.
So those conversations will come up, right? So
You
A
bet.
lot.
and it's a question of, oh, I didn't know that there was an election coming. So there's so many reasons for that. And then when you get into the apathy of saying, it doesn't matter. Say, well, okay, I hear. And the thing is, we have to take that in. We have to make sure that we hear folks when they say it's a real issue, and we can say, well, I hear you, but just tell me which issue is important to you, and at least engage on that issue.
Gonna stop for a minute. We need a
Okay.
commercial.
And you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, subscribe, comment, and love ours and other programming. And today we're interviewing Denzel McCampbell, running for City Clerk's office. Stellar list of endorsements, unbelievable ideas on how to repair, reform, and drive our city clerk's office into the future, and to democratize larger processes in the city. Okay, I'm done.
Okay,
just
yeah, and we need
flabbergasted.
to get this guy elected. Denzel, do your information how you can be contacted
Yeah.
again.
Absolutely, and thank you again for having me on. It's been I love talking to you. My name is Denzel McCampbell. I'm running for Detroit City Clerk. You can contact me at 313-230-4251. That's 313-230-4251. My website is www.denzel4detroit.com. 4 is spelled out, F-O-R. www.denzel4detroit.com. And you can email me at denzel@denzel4detroit.com as well.
And will you be able to come out on Saturday?
I should be able to. I can at least stop by. For sure.
Audience, does Mr. McCampbell might be out there, Mary Waters, Coleman Young, and the authors of proposals R, E, and S are going to be at the Samaritan Center, 555 Connor Street, this Saturday, October 30th.
What time?
It's going to be from 4:30 to 6:30. You can meet Mr. McCampbell there too, and perhaps other local officials looking to get elected, as well as the authors of Proposal R, Proposal E, and Proposal S. Please come out. Yeah.
And what are the topics of that forum again?
Proposal E, Proposal R, and Proposal S. The authors of these proposals will be there. Mr. McCampbell, Mary Waters, and Coleman A. Young will be there. It will be at the Samaritan Center. There might be a few more public officials coming out. I believe a bunch of professors, local professors like Michael Wright, are going to be there. And Michael Wright, I think, might even be moderating the panel. Just an amazing mind. So please come out and learn about these proposals and what they may mean to us.
Absolutely.
Okay, Denzel, I got to ask this question. What are the biggest problems you see with the current city clerk's office?
I mean, I think when you look at the turnout, that 14%, I think that turnout really summarizes all of the problems, right? It goes from the lack of education and engagement, not getting people the information early and often about voting. It really been really great after, we had all these folks turned out in 2020. Why couldn't we, whether it's folks who are turning out to the polls or doing a PSA to say, thanks for voting in November 2020, thanks for voting, thanks for doing that. Don't forget we have an election next year.
That's right.
Right? Like to get that repetition out, right? So we think about the lack of education. We think about the polling locations being not open up on time. In August of 2021, we saw the wrong hours being posted at some locations.
Oh, wow.
Right?
The audacity.
Was that incompetence or was it deliberate?
I don't. I think
Deliberate incompetence.
I think it was a sign that was used for the satellite locations, but they used it for the election day. But why that's an issue is that, we have so many folks in the city of Detroit that work multiple jobs.
That's right.
And if you're passing by your local polling location, and you're like, okay, I know I got to vote today, but I got to work, so I'll go when I get off. And you see a sign that says, no, closes at 6 instead of 8, you're going to say, wow, I can't vote, and you're not going to try to vote. I was standing at Greater Grace in August of 2021, and there was a lady who drove up. It was 7:45. She got off work. She said, I come up here all the time. I know I had until 8. I'm up here. I vote at Greater Grace all the time. She went in and came out very upset because her precinct had been moved and she had been notified.
Well, some of this
Especially
sometimes,
for older voters.
some of it sometimes is incompetence, and unfortunately sometimes it's deliberate. And that's they've done that to Helen Moore all the time. They don't let her call in.
And a lot of
the school board. And in my case, and I hope not in your case, last week there quite likely was some sabotaging of this show, and it ended up a flickering image, but we did have good audio, and I'm hoping they don't do that to you this time.
Because a lot of
it may have just been a flaw in there, and it may have been innocent. I don't know, but we're not. Go ahead.
Just a lot of pivotal issues that affect Detroit directly tend to be on the smaller election ballots when they know there will not be turnout.
Absolutely.
Which is why we need to turn out. That's how we lost the Recorder's Court, isn't it? We lost significant institutions on small election dates.
Proposal P was on I sat on the commission, and we chose the August 2021 to give us more time to hear for more proposals and get the revised charter right. But then you didn't hear you didn't see any information from the clerk's office about Proposal P. No information, and we developed a factual summary of Proposal P, and you didn't see that anywhere from the clerk's office, right? A government document that we didn't tell anyone which way to vote, whether this was good or bad. We just said, here's what it is, here's what it changes, here's the summary. That wasn't published. So, as we talk about the issues that are impacting, I would say the lack of education around our elections, the disenfranchisement and suppression when we talk about the polling locations not open time, absentee ballots not going out on time, and the lack of civic engagement and education as well, because those all combine that would get to 14% turnout. And we're gonna get that if we don't change leadership in the city clerk's office. And this is not to be alarmist. It's just where
no, be an alarmist. I'm alarmed about
it. But if we don't change the leadership in the city clerk's office, those turnout numbers will continue to slide.
That's right.
And it's not just August of 2021. November of 2020, record turnout across the country. We didn't have record turnout in the city of Detroit.
That's right.
Which we definitely needed to have, because look at what was at stake.
Exactly.
Okay, this is supposed to be a poetry program. And I'm the poet in residence for Detroit Public Schools. So here's one that I just wrote. Those dirty, damned retrumplicans. Those dirty Trumpists dodge subpoenas. Let's take them forthwith to the cleaners. They've endeavored to make mockery of our precious dear democracy. That Bannon fascist is the dirtiest. Indeed, he's crass and most discourteous. So we'll hope that Garland nails him and then ultimately jails him. Because let us pray that Attorney General Merrick Garland ensures that Steve Bannon lives out his treacherous life in a federal prison. Okay, I've done one poem, but we're still interviewing Denzel McCampbell. And folks, remember that Denzel McCampbell is going to hold accessible and secure elections to ensure that every eligible voter in Detroit can vote. Because this is not happening now. What did you, 14% you said, Denzel?
14%.
I mean, and he's fighting back against attacks on our right to vote, on everyone's right to vote. And he's increasing civic engagement and education. And that's so dear to my heart, Denzel. What you're doing, you're going to get if you get the young folks behind you, the battle's half won.
Absolutely.
Do you have a final message for us?
I would just say thank you again for having me on. the election day is November 2nd, Tuesday, November 2nd. If you have your absentee ballot, please fill it out. Do not mail it back at this point. We want to make sure it gets there on time. Drop it off. There are drop boxes across the city, but if you can drop it off at the Department of Elections on the West Grand Boulevard, west of Woodward Avenue. Just give me a call if you also need other locations, 313-230-4251. But let's get change in the city clerk's office. Let's increase that turnout. Thank you so much.
Please do not mail in your mail-in ballots. Do you understand where we're at, City of Detroit? Do not mail in your mail-in ballots. Drop them off, please.
I'll give that to you. Keep that. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Denzel Campbell. Thank you for your service, and thank you for today.
Thanks for having me.
Very
I
good
look
interview.
forward to you representing.
Oh, I appreciate that.
It's inevitable.
And you know, we're going to put this on email. I'm going to get it to all my email contacts as soon as we walk out of here. She's going to put this on my email.